Hi everyone, David here from daviddumaisaudio.com, and in this video I'll show you guys how to make some electrical sound effects and electricity sound effects. So let's jump into the project and we'll get started. All right, so I actually broke this down into 3 or 4 examples here, and we'll start with what is the simplest one. I'll just play it so you guys have an idea of what it sounds like, and then we'll go from there. So that is the example. What I was going for is something that had a hum to it, and that was really gritty, and yeah. So basically, something that you would hear like if you have a 60 hertz like feedback in your monitor or something, but really much more distorted. And so that's what I was going for. So let's see how I created that. We'll start it from scratch here. So I'm using Omnisphere, of course, and but I mean, again, it doesn't matter which synth you use. I say that all the time, but yeah, it really doesn't matter as long as you can have some different oscillators you can choose from. So I'll start with just choosing a square wave, like just using this one. I like this one. It already sounds a bit gritty, and that's probably going to be pretty darn close to what we want. So yeah, I like to use a square wave, but some people will use like sine waves, but I find sine waves a little bit too pure unless you distort them. So I mean, this is good for our purposes right now. So next thing we'll do is add an LFO to this, to the amplitude. So what I did is added the LFO to amplitude, and the LFO I'm going to use is a random noise LFO here. And I'm just playing around with the source and the width of the modulation. And already you can kind of start to hear that that electrical sound, that doing like random amplitude sounds, which makes it really glitchy, which is what you want. So that's good. Next thing that we will add is a bandpass filter. I like to do something different though. Sometimes I'll like to come in here. Here, well, let's do this first. Let's turn this on and we'll choose a specialty filter here. Let's try a few different ones here. So that's the resonator, and you can do another parallel one inside of here, and I'll try something else. Let's try like a notch here. And just like that, we're just adding a bit more grit to the sound. You can do a few more things like adding a wave shaper here. This is just going to add some distortion. And that can work really well. Finally, what I did is I like to sometimes just go through here, through the orb, and just kind of play the dice here, and it basically adds random effects to the sound. And then I'll just see what happens. So I kind of like that. So this is the sound without it, and then this is the sound with the effect on. So I like it. Not necessary to have it on. I could take it off and it's still okay. And so that's pretty good. Now, one more thing I had on here is isotope. So isotope just adds a lot of distortion to the sound. So I'm just going to add that on our I think I said isotope, but it's trash by isotope. So I like to just go in here and choose like the grittiest sound I can get. Right, so that just makes it a lot more punchy and just a lot grittier. So yeah, I really like that. So that is the first sound example that I have here. It's just a low buzz with a lot of kind of that electrical noise to it. So yeah, that's the first example. So let's move on to the second one here. Let's see what this one is. So this one is electrical noise. So let's hear it. So again, a little bit different than the first one. Obviously, you don't have that tonal element to the sound because I'm using a noise oscillator here, but still that kind of electrical sound or distorted sound. So, and something that you can layer, by the way, on top of other electricity sounds. So, all right, so let's break this one down to see how I did it. So first thing I did, of course, I chose a noise oscillator. It's pretty obvious just by the sound of it. And then just like that previous example, I to the amplitude here, I added a LFO number 1, which is just a random noise LFO here. So it's just randomizing the amplitude, which is giving you that glitchy sound. And next thing that I did is, if we just play what we have so far, this is all we have. Next thing I did is I added a filter. So that's adding that, it's just making it high frequency. So all this is a bandpass, 24 dB. So if I go in here, bandpass, 24 dB, that's all I took here. And I just played around with the cutoff until I got something. Now what's really making the sound here are the effects. So I added some, here, let's take these off. So I added an EQ, which is just cutting off the lows. That's the whole purpose of this EQ here. And then I added distortion. So I added stompbox distortion here. I put the drive pretty high. Could even put the tone up a bit. And then I added a limiter to really increase the sound. And that's how I got that gritty sound effect. So that is the sound of that one. Now, I also created something similar using Massive here. So I'll play this one. Now this patch is a bit more complex though, so I'm just going to break it down rather than starting it from scratch. So first thing I did is chose oscillator 2 here. I went in and I played, I tried to find a any kind of distorted waveform here. So I chose this one, but if we play around, wonder if we can get another good one that will work just as well. Yeah, this one's pretty good. But as you can tell, just from me like cycling through all the different oscillators here, they all sound pretty similar. So it almost doesn't matter what you're putting in through here. It's just going to change the character of the sound just a little bit. So let's see what we have. So first thing I did again is I went to my LFO here. I chose a noise LFO, so noise 1 down here. I brought down the rate of the LFO because you never want it a bit too high or else it's just going to sound like noise. And you don't want it to sound like noise. You actually want it to sound glitchy. So that's why you bring down the rate so it's not so noisy but more glitchy. And then I applied this to a few settings. So first place I applied it to is the amp. So this is the volume of the oscillator. So that's what's making it glitchy, coming in and out, making the sound coming in and out. The next thing I did is I applied it to the bandpass. Again, exact same thing as I did with Omnisphere. That's what I did up here. So amp and then bandpass. And then the next thing I did is I added an extra layer to the sound and that is just noise. So as you can see here, I have white noise. So let's see if I take it off what it sounds like. Maybe I'll just take it off and take that off. And now if I put it back on, right, you really get that noise sound. So you can choose probably any noise here. Let's try a few different ones. So you get different quality of sound based on whatever you're choosing here. So this is something cool that you can look through. right? And then the next thing I did is I added modulation to the FM filter here. So down here, modulation oscillator, I added an FM filter to number 2, to oscillator 2. I also added the position and phase here. Again, phase, I'm just using the same LFO. So one thing you'll notice when I'm building this patch here is that it's the same. I'm using the same LFO for almost everything. LFO 5 for the oscillator amp, the filter bandwidth here, the noise amp, the phase. And yeah, the only thing that's different, if I'm not mistaken, is the LFO 7 that I'm using here for the FM pitch modulation here. So that's the only thing that's different. And what I'm doing here for the FM or for the pitch modulation here is LFO 7, which is the same thing. It's just a different noise oscillator, and I just changed the rate a little bit. It's a little bit faster. So if you look at number 5, number 7, they're a little bit faster. It's just to add a bit of difference in the modulation here. So, and that's pretty much it for this sound. So using that, if I turn this off, that's the sound, which is, again, it's decent by itself. This modulation, however, is just making that so much more grittier and a lot more electrical, in my opinion. Now, the next thing I added was some bit crushing. So if I take that off, without the bit crushing, it just doesn't sound the same. And this is full wet, well, a little bit lower, but basically full wet bit crushing all the way to the max. And then I tried adding also some effects up here, but I found it's just changing the character of the sound. It's not really making it electrical or not. So, I mean, this is up to you if you want to add some stuff. So this is like placing it in a room. It's just adding a bit more variation and modulation to the sound. So, but again, very similar to the other Omnisphere patch that I created. All right, so lastly, I had one last effect here, and this is it. Let's hear what it sounds like. Now this one's a bit more complex because I'm adding more layers here. So let's listen to each layer one at a time. So layer A. And then layer B. And as you'll see, they're both very similar. Again, how I showed in the previous. So I'm just going to break it down rather than start from scratch because they're very similar. But yeah, just using layering different layers on this one. So okay, so let's start with A here, and then we'll go through it. So as you can see here from my modulation matrix, the first thing I did again is applying randomness to the. I thought it was the amp, but it's not the amp, so let's see what I did. So for the LFO 1, I applied it to the shape here. So it's moving this, which is changing the shape of the oscillator. And again, all of these are going to be noise, if I'm not mistaken, except for number 3. But they're all noise oscillators because that's what's going to make that electrical sound and make it really random and yeah. So that's affecting that. Let's go to our next LFO number 2. LFO number 2 is affecting the cutoff. So that is this up here. So here, instead of putting a bandpass filter, I decided to put a specialty filter on here. So it's a power buzz. So it's just a buzzing filter, which is why it works really well for this kind of electrical sound. So let's take these off here so you can hear what we have. This is basically what we have. And then what I did is I added some FM synthesis, and it's really not much. So if you look here, FM. I put the depth all the way down, and yeah, because I really didn't want too much. If you put it too much, this is what you get, and that's not the sound we're going for. So I really dialed it down, and then I added some wave shaper again to add some distortion and grittiness to the sound, and it really it adds that higher frequency sparkle and distortion. And that's basically how I built out this patch. One of the things that's a bit different from this one, from the other ones that I did, is for LFO 3. I think it was LFO 3. It's just a sine wave, and it's affecting LFO 2. So it's affecting the depth of this LFO, of LFO 2. And so it's affecting how much over time it's changing the depth of LFO 2, and LFO 2 is doing the cutoff. So the cutoff is basically going high, up and down, it's going up and down a lot more, and then a lot less, and then more, and then less. And so it's making it a bit more random in that way. It's just adding a bit more variation and randomness to the sound. So, all right, let's listen to layer B here. So I actually only have two LFOs going here, number 3, number 4. Number 3 is also affecting number 2, LFO number 2, but I don't have anything assigned to LFO number 2. So really the only thing that's working here is LFO number 4, which is affecting the wave shaper here. Where is it? There we go. It's just affecting this. So it's basically going moving like this over time. So if I take it off, this is the sound. And all I did here to get this is I have my saw wave here, my Moog modular saw oscillator. I added a bandpass, just the original bandpass, and then I went in, added some FM. That's how you get that gritty sound. And then the wave shaper here to add the distortion, and it's creating that glitchy sound effect by using the LFO again. And now when I layer it together, they just blend well together. And of course I added some more things here. So you see here I have Bassman, just adding a lot of bass to it. So this is without it. So it's a cabinet, so it's for like guitars and stuff, but like you can tell it just adds a lot of that grittiness and character to the sound. And I find it just really blends them well together. So that is pretty much it. That's how I created these 4 layers of electrical sound. So let's just go through here and let's see what else I added. So here, I have my isotope trash, which I've showed already. I think, so for here, I did add a few more. So for this layer, I added a few plugins here. So this is what it sounds without the plugins. And with the plugins. So here, I added a very light distortion with trash. As you can see here, the wet knob is like pretty much all the way down. I mean, I could bring it up to whatever I want, but I want it not too high. I added Destroyer. This is just a plugin that comes with Steinberg. And if you hear, I don't think it does much of a difference. So I don't think I did very much with that. I mean, I just left it on, but it's not really doing much to the sound. And then finally, I have this bass subsynth here. That's just adding some sub-harmonics to that sound. So that's pretty much it that I did here. But I mean, as you can tell, even without these plugins, you're still getting that electrical sound. So it's not like they're contributing too much to it. They do add distortion. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And here, again, is just trash, neutrons. I was just using this just for some compression, which is something you might want to do. To compress, you might even want to crush the sound using a limiter. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Gain, that's just for me to balance out the sound, and recenter to center it. So nothing here that's contributing really to the sound apart from the trash here and the compressor. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. I think those are the examples I had set up for you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this. If it was helpful or useful. I know electrical sounds are kind of really challenging to make and create. But yeah, like the best way to do it is obviously if you're going to go and record them, but that's not always that easy to do. So hopefully you guys found that valuable, how to make, electrical sound effects using synths. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.